Hello, my name is Kunga T and Dorji, also known as Soup. I'm a media personality, and today I'm going to be reading a story book called The Little Astronaut, DAWA'S Journey to Space, to my little friend Tiki. So here we are then, The Little Astronaut, DAWA'S Journey to Space. I'm sure there are many things you could learn from this story, alright? So, it's a lovely sunny day. 10-year-old Dawa Zangmo is walking to school. You can see, this is Dawa Zangmo, alright? She looks up at the sky and sees a big, bright sun shining over the valley. The pale moon is also in the sky. Oh, aren't they beautiful, she thinks. Dawa sits quietly in class. She can still see the moon from the window. Then Karma, her science teacher, walks in. Meh. Karma draws the solar system on the blackboard and turns to face the students with a big smile. There are 8 planets in our solar system, says Karma, and they revolve around the sun. Dawa and her friends listen in amazement. Okay? Then, later, back home, Dawa keeps thinking about the moon. She runs to her father with the question, Appa, how far is the moon from our home? And her Appa looks at her and then at the moon. It is quite far, he tells her. And he adds, but astronauts have been there. You ever heard of astronauts? Okay, so Dawa hasn't heard of astronauts, okay, unlike you. So Dawa asks her father, who are they? Astronauts are people who travel to space in spacecrafts. All right then. And later, after dinner, Dawa draws a spacecraft in her sketchbook and soon falls asleep. She wakes up in a big green field and wonders where she is. Suddenly she sees something approaching the field. Wow, it looks like the spacecraft I just drew, she thinks. Aha! A man in a blue spacesuit walks out of the spaceship and waves at her. Hi, I am Nima and I am an astronaut, he says. Do you want to go on a tour of outer space? Dawa feels her dream is coming true. Sure, she says, that would be awesome. Astronaut Nima hands her a little spacesuit. She puts on the spacesuit and they enter the spacecraft. Dawa takes a deep breath. Now, why do you think she takes a deep breath?
She's very excited.
She is excited. Yes, she's going to be exploring the solar system. So, almost immediately, the spacecraft lifts up and off it goes into the sky like an arrow. Dawa and Nima are in space. Dawa is thirsty and reaches for her water bottle. She accidentally spills the water, and to her surprise, the water floats in the air. Now, can you imagine that? The water, instead of falling down to the ground, it floats in the air. What is happening? She exclaims, almost scared. There's no gravity in space. That is why the water is floating. Nima laughs. Yes. Wow, says Dawa. Okay. Aha. You want to float too? Asks Nima. Will I? Says Dawa. Of course you will, says Nima, and undoes Dawa's seatbelt. At once, Dawa starts to levitate, meaning she starts to float, alright? Mm-hmm. What is gravity? Dawa asks. It is an invisible force that pulls things towards it, says Nima. Earth's gravity keeps you and I on the ground and makes things fall down, right? So if I drop this book, it would fall down. But up in space, that doesn't happen because there's no gravity, right? So let's see what happens as they move on with their journey. Dawa can now see the big sun. Nima sees the excitement in Dawa's eyes and tells her that the sun is a young star. This is the sun here, okay? It is a young star and it is at the center of the solar system and very special to us. Life will not be possible on Earth without it. Now let's go explore Mercury. It is the first planet from the sun and is the smallest in the solar system. Days on Mercury are blistering, meaning very hot, right? But nights are freezing cold. And so they continue on with their journey, going to the next planet, which is Venus. Venus is the hottest planet. It is so hot that the strongest metal will instantly melt on its surface. And then they come to this very familiar planet, Earth. Where do we live?
Where?
Earth, exactly. Earth is the only planet that supports life. Nima then explains how day and night occurs. It is daytime in the part of the Earth facing the sun and nighttime on the other side. So, right? So if you have the Earth here and the sun is this side.
And this is night here.
Exactly, exactly. So this is day and this is night. All right? Good. Well done. And moving on, they get to see the moon. The moon is important to Earth. Without it, our climate would fail. Ah, I'm proud of my name, says Dawa. Why is Dawa proud of her name? Right, Dawa means moon. And they move on in their journey to the next planet. This beautiful red dot. Mars, the next planet. You know, Dawa, says Nima, Mars is called the red planet because it appears like a red dot when seen from Earth. Okay, here we go then. The duo, the two of them, their next stop is Jupiter. Nima tells Dawa that it is the biggest planet in the solar system. It is bigger than all the planets put together, Nima says. Can we stop by at Jupiter? Asks Dawa. No, we can't, says Nima. Our spacecraft will be sucked into Jupiter's stomach. You see, Jupiter is made up of gas, so it is impossible to land there. Well then, off we go to the next planet, says Dawa. Do you know what the next planet is?
Saturn!
Yes, it is this very pretty planet. Dawa can see the most beautiful rings surrounding it. Nima reads Dawa's curiosity. Right? The rings of Saturn are made of ice, dust, and rocks, he says. How do these rings keep flying around Saturn if they are so heavy? Asks Dawa. The gravity of Saturn holds these rings in place, says Nima. Right? So they've looked at Saturn and they move to the next planet. Oh, another very pretty planet. That planet is Uranus. It's so far away from the sun that it takes Uranus 84 years to go around the sun, or say make one revolution. Well, that sounds like a person's entire lifetime, says Dawa. Yes, Nima laughs. And onward they go to ta-da! Neptune. This is the last and the farthest planet in the solar system. It seems dark and cold out here, Dawa exclaims. Well, that's because poor Neptune is so far away from the sun, Nima says.
Is it? I think it'll be like winter there.
Exactly. So Dawa imagines a freezing Neptune just like you imagine right now. And here we go, a relieved Nima says. How about if we go home now? Can't we see more? Dawa pleads. Well, we will go on our next adventure soon, says Numa. But for now, let's go back home. As they approach Earth, Nima tells her to hold tight as the landing can be rough sometimes. Dawa closes her eyes and says a prayer. Om, ah, hum. The landing is smooth, but she can faintly hear someone calling out her name and pulling at her spacesuit. Dawa, wake up, it's breakfast time. It's her mother tugging at her blankets. Aren't you going to school today? Her mother says. Dawa opens her eyes and smiles at her mother. Amma, I just had the most beautiful dream ever, she says. What did you dream about? Her mother asks. I went on a tour of outer space, says Dawa, and I want to become an astronaut when I grow up. So it seems like this entire story was dreamed, right, by Dawa. So she's eaten her breakfast and she goes to school. As she walks to school, Dawa looks for the moon in the sky. And the moon is there, faithful as always, looking pale and beautiful. Ah, that's me, Dawa the moon, she says. And that brings us to the end of the story. So, as you might have seen in the story, each planet is different. Yet each planet is special because it has its own special characteristics, right? Just like us, people, you and I, we're different. But we are all special. Didn't you like that story?
I loved it.
Go zoom to the, go catch up to me, go some